welcome to Remnant 101 at the City on a Hill Church. I'm Associate Pastor Benji Lalean. God's remnant knows that they still have to strive. First verse I want to read is in Luke 13, verse 24, where Jesus says, "Strive to enter through the narrow gate, for many, I say to you, will seek to enter and will not be able." And then one more verse, Romans 8, verse 7, which says, "Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, nor indeed can be." And I'll get to that second verse a little bit later on because I know I may sound a little bit off topic, so just bear with me. But the point is that to walk daily in holiness, to separate and to stay separate, you still have to strive. And if you've learned otherwise, you've learned wrong. Now, why is emphasis needed when it comes to talking about striving? Because the church has made it sound so easy, and that's exactly what the devil wants people to want it to be. Now, it's not that hard to just read the Bible, sing worship songs, wear a t-shirt with verses on them, post social media posts thanking God, or even drive to a church service. Striving is meant to emphasize that the way to life, eternal life, is difficult, which is why there are few who find it. Take up your cross daily is no joke. There's a reason that Jesus said in Luke that many will try to get through and will not be able to. Or in Matthew, when he said that there are few who find it. Now, this creates a perfect illustration of why we keep saying that the church today has it so wrong and why what we're saying is absolutely true. The church today makes it sound so easy, so accepting and inclusive. They're saying things like, "Come as you are, get baptized. Jesus paid it all for you." Jesus paved the way and became the sacrifice for all people to be able to be holy so that we can be saved, so that we all have a shot at eternal life. But he made sure to tell us that it's still in our hands to strive to get to it. He backed it up by talking about things that we have to do to be his disciple. In fact, the chapter right after the one that I read from in Luke about the narrow gate is the one where Jesus talked about hating all of those people important to you to be his disciple. And again, all of this goes back to holiness and separation, which Hebrews says no one will see the Lord without. In the verse in Romans, you start to understand why you have to strive, why it's difficult. Going through the narrow gate, walking in holiness and separation, it's difficult because the devil wants you to focus on the carnal, the flesh. You have to choose to reject that daily, and that's not easy. That includes things, opportunities, people, everything. Separating from all of that to focus on bringing Jesus back is difficult. But here, we have the kind of commitment that God is actually looking for in people. He's looking for people who are willing to go through the striving, who have the whatever it takes attitude in their minds to be willing to lay anything and everything down that they once held dear to themselves to press on toward eternal life. Take our minds off of the flesh and set it on things above, like Paul said. And basically, we have to strive because God is looking for the commitment that makes us willing to strive. And those who won't are stuck in the carnal, which, as the verse in Romans says, is enmity against God. Now, one of the things that I want to point out is where that verse in Romans says that the carnal mind is not subject to the law of God, nor can it be. And we spent a good bit of time a few months ago talking about the law of God, the overarching law of holiness that God has, how it stood since the beginning of time, and God has never wavered from it, and how the center of it is holiness, like I said, and how living holy will ultimately lead to eternal life. The carnal mind, as the verse said, not being subject to that law, of course, does not follow it, meaning it does not focus on holiness. It only focuses on things of the flesh, things that appeal to, for example, things like the five senses, that which is seen, that which is temporary, again, like Paul said. All of this leads to that mind not being separate and holy, but because that mind is not subject to God's law, it also is not subject to the ultimate benefit of that law, eternal life. So this verse in Romans is covering a lot. It's basically God saying, those who choose to set their minds on things of the flesh, do not follow my law, will not reap the benefits of my law, and are therefore my enemies. And now we see why we have to strive. Because letting go of the flesh, which includes everything that you care about, everything you've learned, everything you've earned, everything that you know, when you actually realize that all of that has to be counted as loss, then it becomes so much easier said than done. But God is looking for the commitment it takes to do it anyway, because we realize and believe that it's really what leads to eternal life, and everything is infinitely better than anything that we've had or could have ever had on earth. God's remnant will strive without question. I pray you strive with us. God bless you.